Huh?
All right, we're live, guys. So, howdy, folkses.
Hey, weirdos.
Hi, Bob.
Hi, Bob.
All right, well, me and Elihu were kind of talking about this at the beginning. We were talking because although as much as I'd like to talk about the BBB, I'm not going to as much right now because I'm more worried about the arrests and deportation stuff off the bat, because of my kids. Remember, two of my kids are not white, let's say. And one of the things I wanted to get for them was, their actual California IDs plus, I'm just going to assume that's you, Dandelion.
Yeah, I was just in the middle of typing something.
But the recent action saying that, when someone showed them their ID and they said that it was a fake and still arrested them, I'm wondering if it's even worth trying to get them their IDs and their real IDs. Because apparently I don't think it's going to matter anymore.
It seems to only matter on your skin color with that.
Well, remember, they have darker skin.
I said it seems to only matter. I'm not guaranteeing it, but yeah, it's like profiling. Kind of reminds me of the New York stop and frisk policy they had. If you're familiar with that, it was basically giving authorization for police to stop anybody who has non-white skin for any reason to say, oh, we're suspecting a crime or we're investigating something. That was a legal reason for stop and frisk. About 80% of their reports, by 85% of reports, were non-white, non-Caucasian individuals.
Sorry, I just realized I forgot to plug my fucking phone in. I'd rather it not die while I'm streaming.
Yeah,
Well, I found a charger, so hey, I lucked out. I found a huge charger. It's like a $40 charger.
And Jose, have you heard about the? I'm sorry, Jose. NB, have you heard about the Jose Braga thing?
No. I've been busy this week. I've had other things to do other than bother with politics.
Well, this is a complicated matter, okay? So this is a guy who was brought to the United States when he was 4 years old. He joined the United States Army, was sent to Iraq twice, received a Purple Heart for his actions during basically a car exploded and he helped rescue two of his squad mates while on fire. But the concussive blast did some major damage to his brain, and he would suffer blackouts where he wouldn't realize what he was doing. Afterwards, during one of those blackouts, he did a very heinous crime and served 15 years for it, where he shot and wounded a teenager with his weapon. And then the day, or not really the day of, but shortly after being released, they start deportation paperwork to get him deported. But because he doesn't have any of his original documents, because he was 4, his original country is like, we don't want him either.
What about the ones that are showing up at hearings? Judge says, okay, dismiss, and I just automatically arrest them.
And Darren wants to know if you're in bed, NB.
What?
Darren wants to know if you're in bed.
I'm in the hotel bed, yes.
Yeah, it's not a bathtub.
No, I'm in my hometown. I went and saw my I got here last night. I got here yesterday morning. And saw my daughter, saw my grandson, and we went out to Busch Stadium and watched the ball game. Ooh, real nail biter. Great game though.
Now,
we won. Now, here to get your
Well,
your thing.
Hold on. I'm going to do two other things. Hey, I'm going to hold on.
No, hold on. Let me say something because you like to keep going, and then I forget what the hell I was going to say.
And you asked him, so.
Well, I wanted to continue what Darren was saying because Darren posted he was worried it was a hospital bed, not a hotel bed. That's why.
Okay, fine. No, I'm in a hotel room. I'm going to my grandson's birthday party tomorrow, which is this afternoon, which is right down the road at my daughter's house. No, I'm fine. I'm not in the hospital. Thankfully not. But no. Anyway, so here's the thing. You can join the service in the military and actually not be an American citizen.
Yes.
Okay, you can do this. Now, I will give you an example. My wife worked with a man from Ghana. He was he was here. He joined the military. He was still a citizen of Guam. No, not Ghana, Guyana. Sorry, Guyana. Got to get his African country right. Guyana. Anyway, what that does is it limits him on security clearances. So limited on jobs that he could do. So he did his job. He did it for 4 years. He got out of the military with an honorable discharge, and then he went back to Guyana because he wanted to. So you can come in. We've had people who have come in who, back when I was first in, also, have, like, say, their high school diplomas, but one of the agreements in the contract is they finish their high school diploma while they're in. So there are ways around. And like I said, we have had people from other countries. Like when I went in the Marine Corps, we had a former Russian officer who was joining the Marines and as an enlisted, and he was working on his American citizenship while he was in the process of being in the military.
Yeah,
So there are ways. It is
exchanges too between the Canadian and U.S. military. I know lots of Canadian military sometimes will join the U.S. military for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, yes, those things are completely understandable. Now, as far as this guy individually, I'd have to look more into it. First off, I'd have to look more into what, was it like? You said this person served in the military, got a Purple Heart, obviously had shot somebody, and you said they did 15 years?
Yep. 2010 from 2025, they served 15 years for their crime.
2010 to 2025. So during the Afghan war.
Yeah, he served in Iraq.
Okay.
Does sound like a complicated, because I mean, I know, like, I'm a permanent resident here, but if I commit a felony, I know I'm going to get deported.
Well, here's the added wrinkle. Oh, hold on. Here's the added wrinkle. Apparently in 2006, he signed his final paperwork to become a U.S. citizen. And the federal government, through the chain of custody, lost his paperwork, and they don't know where. So his last...
I'm going to tell you firsthand here. When the government loses fucking paperwork, it's, oh, well, tough shit. You got to put up with it and do what we say. If they fuck it up and it involves money, oh, trust me, they're going to find it and they're going to take that money back from you.
Yeah.
So when he was originally convicted of his crime, he was convicted as a U.S. citizen. That's why he wasn't deported at the time, because they assumed that paperwork would eventually be found. At least I'm assuming that. I'm pulling that out of my ass. But he would not, if he was convicted of that crime at the time, he should have been deported then and there instead of serving his full sentence.
This does This sounds like something that needs to get dedicated to.
Not necessarily.
No.
Depending on the crime, they might have made him serve time here just to make sure he served time.
But what was his conviction on? Obviously, for 15
Attempted murder.
I got a question. Does it really matter what somebody's conviction was? Because people are getting deported for having a criminal record of riding a bicycle on the sidewalk 10 years prior to getting deported. What
No.
does it actually really
No,
matter?
hold on. Elihu, don't go off on a tangent. Don't go off on a tangent. We want to stick with what we're talking about because this is the point I want to make. Or I'll make my point in a sec. Go ahead, MB.
What I'm saying is, yes, it does. Yes, it does matter. I'm curious about, this was 15 years, this was this long ago. It was during the Second Iraq War. Fuck you, George Bush, for that. If anybody hasn't ever figured it out yet, I hate the Second Iraq War. I didn't support it, never have. Still to this day, don't. And you'd be amazed how many of us didn't support that Second Iraq War.
Okay, I want to say something. In San Francisco, about a few years ago, there was somebody who was not an American citizen. Found a gun in the bag, picked up the gun went off, got somebody in the gut. The person was no longer unalive. Republicans were upset about this because they're complaining, oh, Democrats letting immigrants in this. Look at this murder. This guy was found guilty, in jail, and still in U.S. custody, and people who are applying for citizenship are getting fucking deported. What is wrong with this administration? You have an undocumented immigrant who is found guilty of murder, still in U.S. jail, still in U.S. soil. What is going on?
Hold on. Okay, Elihu, that's a tangent to what we're talking about because this is the point that I was trying to make. This is why we need due process for all these people in general, is because a case like this is insanely complicated. And this is just one case. And I'll be honest with you, and MB, I'm sure you'll agree with me, because this guy suffered head trauma as a United States service member, he should have gotten treatment to begin with.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
But he never got that treatment.
Yeah, unfortunately, during that time, they really did not start really focusing on mental health until, God, it was a long time. It took a long time for them to realize how fucked up we all were getting from the constant war.
And granted, I will say mental health treatment has improved over the last century, but it still wasn't a major focus until probably probably during Obama's election presidency. And that's just my assumption. I'm not going to back that up with any evidence or anything because I can't prove anything.
I believe you're correct because McCain wanted to implement that.
No, McCain was the biggest reason why, and I've told you guys, if it had been Hillary versus McCain, I believe Hillary would have won hands down. I'd have just voted down ballot and maybe voted third party. But I did not want either one of them because as far as I'm concerned, they're both fucking old war hawks.
If it had come down to Hillary versus McCain, I probably would have voted for McCain. Which is funny.
A lot of people I know, one of the reasons why, there was a big reason why a lot of military voted for Obama. We knew John McCain. We knew what he would do to us. We were, and yes, I'm not kidding. The second Iraq War made us very, very, very wary of Bushes, McCain's, I was starting to be like, great, these guys just want us in a fucking war so they can make money. It's like, fuck you all. And we were believing that, we were hoping and voting for Obama because, one, we didn't know who he was. I mean, let's be honest. He was a junior senator from I mean, he was a junior senator from Illinois. I mean, he had just recently, I think he was, what, 2 years into his being senator. He wasn't really known at the time.
Pretty much, and that's what I get. The fact that he was an unknown was one of the reasons why I was hesitant to vote for him to begin with.
Yeah, the Democratic Party noticed him and basically, after his speech at the convention, decided to groom him for presidency.
Well, he had some. I mean, I will say this: when it comes to, there was a thing I'd heard about Bill Clinton that he's the kind of president who, like, he could just walk into a room and suck all the air out back in the day, and Obama was a phenomenal speaker.
I'll give him that. Yeah.
You cannot argue that he was not a phenomenal speaker. I mean, so was Clinton. They had that, I guess you could say, the wow factor. I don't know another word to put it. I'd just say the wow factor.
Charisma.
Well, he had something that McCain definitely did not have, and that was kind of trying to unite. He kept saying things like, my friends, and I'm like, I literally yelled at the screen in work one time. I'm like,
Bad
shut
Trump
the
impression.
fuck up, dude. I don't need a friend I want to have a beer with. I need a commander in chief who's going to help us end this goddamn war.
And I will say, Obama seemed to have a lot of respect for the service members. I mean, I remember that one time where he was sitting on the tarmac late at night when some service members were coming home after the ultimate sacrifice, and he stood there for hours silent while they unloaded their bodies. And
did anybody hear any clips from that speech that Trump gave at West Point for the graduates?
I did not hear anything about. All right, I'm sorry. I saw some headlines. I'm ignoring them for the time being because I don't think they portray an accurate depiction because I didn't see it.
I did hear some clips, and yeah, that was some weird shit, man.
If you want to read the transcripts, it's not going to be available because the White House is no longer publishing them.
Well, yeah.
One of the things is, when it comes to what Obama did, we were hoping, we were like, it's like, okay, McCain will just keep the war going. Obama, we were like, well, maybe we'll finally get Bin Laden and we can get the hell out of this war. Well, we got 1 out of 2. We were able to get, he was able to get Bin Laden. I give him full credit for that. That was on his watch.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't it Obama that got us finally out of Iraq for the most part?
I'm going to be completely honest. I'd have to really look into that because, as I told you guys, I didn't focus much on the Iraq war. I was focused mainly on the Afghan war.
Okay, because I know the Afghan thing was the final pullout was planned under the last few months of Trump and implemented under Biden, which was a shit show.
Yeah, that's an understatement. But yeah. But I mean, yeah, the whole thing was what kind of soured people when it came to Biden, or not Biden, sorry, Obama the second time was in something. Okay, first off, Mitt Romney was never going to win. I didn't believe it for a second. And even though I voted for him, I was like, he's not going to win. And Obama won, and I was like, yeah, I'm not surprised. The whole thing was the nation building part, and that's the thing we got to get out of, is that post World War II mentality of nation building. Because, come on, guys, they talk about us having all this money we spend on our military. Well, then let's stop nation building.
Let's leave Gaza alone.
Well, again, that's a tangent. That's a tangent, Elihu. Let's stick to what we're focusing on.
Well, think about this. How many nations how many countries have we helped overthrow put another government in, and well, it sucked. Worse than
Egypt was the last. Egypt was the last one we helped get rid of Sisi.
No,
yeah.
because I would also argue, we got Afghanistan, we have Iraq, we have Libya, we have
Somalia.
did we do much in Somalia? I don't know per se. I don't know enough about it.
No, the warlords are still there. We didn't really
Yeah,
do
we
much.
tried to deal with the warlords and everything and work with them, and it sucked.
I believe one of
then-
the representatives from Obama said that it was easier dealing with the Taliban than them.
I'm having a brain fart. What country was Gaddafi in charge of? Was that Libya or was that another country that I can't remember?
Libya.
the name of?
Libya.
So that was Libya. Okay. So those are the three big ones from the last 2 decades that I can think of.
Well, you can think of both Vietnam, Korea.
We didn't do shit in Vietnam. Just lost.
Well, actually, if you look at it, well, I'm not going to go into the history of what we were supposed to do to help Vietnam afterwards, but let's be honest. At that point, everybody was so tired of the war. Hey, look, man, you let a war go on long enough, people are going to get tired of it, especially the people fighting it.
Well,
but I mean,
in preparation for the next war, which I worry that is going to end up coming. What are your guys' thoughts on the whole Golden Dome thing? Because that was the other thing I wanted to bring up today, because it was all over my feed.
I've only heard about it this morning. This sounds somewhat similar to Reagan's Star Wars project, but
it's supposed to be basically a fulfilling of the Star Wars program.
Reagan's
defense system.
Hang on. Reagan's Star Wars program was implementing missiles from space to attack our enemies on the ground. This is ground-based military surrounding the United States. It's not space-based.
I think
hold on,
expensive and unnecessary.
So that's where Project Thor came from.
Hold on. Elihu, one of the things that they are talking about doing is having space-based detection systems to detect missile launches, which is somewhat space-based, plus the possibility of space-based laser systems to either guide munitions or to, depending on the type of laser they're talking about, to actually to shoot down missiles. But most of what they're talking about is ground-based missile systems covering the entire continental United States, possibly Alaska and Hawaii as well. But and I'll be honest with you, the idea behind this, I'm not necessarily against. I know that might be shocking to some people. I think the idea of calling it the Golden Dome is fucking horrendous, but whatever. I mean, it's a play off of Trump's love of gold and the Israeli Iron Dome idea.
Yeah.
But I'm not entirely against it. My issue is they're saying that they're going to allocate $200 billion towards it. But from even the most conservative estimates I've seen, it's going to cost over $1 trillion. And it's going to take at least 10 years to even start to fully, set up. Not 3 years like it was implied.
Defenses in position where you need them, right? Like you already have defenses against, because the place most likely, like in North Korea, is the most likely to launch a missile. You already have
let's.
Well, and there is the California defense thing. I can't remember exactly what it's called. If Darren's still in the chat, maybe he can tell us. But there's a system that's primarily based in California, Portland, Oregon, and Alaska that is supposed to protect us from service missiles coming from the east coast of the Asian continent.
Yeah.
Well, think of who else this would benefit besides just the United States. I mean, Canada and Mexico could benefit from something like that.
It does already have
Canada needs the extra coverage because otherwise Alaska is left out in the cold.
No, but I'm saying is, of course, something like that, we're gonna wanna, of course, as much as we fuck with Canada, we don't want anything bad happening to Canada.
Well,
Gotta get
I
away
would agree with that
from-
sentiment, but again, my issue is I don't know if we can afford
I
what
just don't think
they're
it's a
actually talking about,
necessary-
because with the extra sites, the overlapping coverage that is necessary across the entire continental. And remember, they want to be able to protect from space-based weaponry, which is why they can't just do it, along the coasts or the borders. They need to do it from the entirety of the United States. And of course, you can't just have one site
you're talking about
covering an area. Sorry?
You're talking about putting something together that it takes people with brains in areas of technology far beyond what even we could come up with. All I'm saying is, it's kind of like this episode of Young Sheldon I was watching where, because my wife's been nagging me to watch that show. So I'm still on the first season. I've taken a little bites. I generally love the show. And there's this scene or there's this one where he's over at NASA and, he's like, you'll take my son seriously. He's got a freaking ulcer here. And he shows him this idea. And the NASA guy says, yeah, that's great. We just don't have the technology for it yet. So he's like, oh, so I'm ahead of my time. He goes, call me when you catch up. And then a little Elon Musk joke in there with like StarX or something. I just thought that was funny.
Well, I'm more worried about the spending right now. Even though I like the idea, I think a proper timetable needs to be implemented well before we allocate funding for it.
Well, of course, that's the case. You got to remember, the whole thing is like saying, hey, yes, we do this. Now, we know not everything's going to get implemented. So I do want to say one thing that, and this is just on a personal note from the other side of this hypocritical nature. When I'm hearing the other side saying, oh, leave Biden alone, he has cancer, where's your sympathy? I'm like, you guys couldn't sit and stand for a boy who had 13 brain surgeries because you were told not to cheer for anything Trump did at that speech. So, sorry, you don't get any sympathy from me.
Well, no, hold on.
That kid was a ploy. He already got recognized twice. The kid was a ploy.
Hold on, Elihu. I'm not even going to talk about that. Okay. My issue with the brain cancer thing, as far as I'm concerned, his policies while he was president are still fair game to talk about. I don't give a shit about that. I mean,
I'm not.
That was while he was president. I'm talking. So if you're
Biden's issues, I'm not sympathetic.
So
I'm not unsympathetic. I don't.
So
wish
yeah.
him.
I don't care if you're criticizing Biden, and I'm not going to say, well, how dare you criticize him for something he did 4 years ago when he's got brain cancer now. It's like, no, I don't give a shit about his brain cancer now when it comes to his policies 4 years ago. But saying stuff like, and some of the stuff I have seen, like, oh, I hope he dies painfully, which is something that I actually responded to on TikTok on someone's video, that was over the line for me.
Well, that is over the line. It also was over the line when I hear people say, like, don't miss next time, or God, why'd this guy miss? Or people saying, look, you got to take this guy out. I'll send you some sexy love letters stuff. I'm like, you people are just sick. And yeah, I've seen people on the other side, my side, dude. I'm like, you guys are not conservatives. You're just fucking nuts. I'm like, you're QAnon fucking crazy. And I've actually met QAnon people, and it takes all of about 2 seconds to realize, okay, just put your tinfoil hat on so I know it's you.
2 seconds, well, damn, you're slow.
That was the first time I'd ever heard of QAnon. No,
I'm fucking with you, dude. I'm fucking with you, man.
I had ever heard of QAnon. I had never even heard of it.
I'm fucking with you.
No, dude
No.
was like, are you conservative? I'm like, yeah. And then he goes, oh, have you heard of QAnon? I'm like, no. And then he starts going on these conspiracies, and I'm like, okay, bud. I'm like, you're not a conservative, you're a nut job. And I
My
walked.
favorite
I'm
is
like,
the one where JFK is supposed to come back from the dead or whatever.
Oh God, yeah. But I don't even want to go into that.
Oh, boy.
'Cause QAnon is well above and beyond normal conspiracy theories, as far as I'm concerned.
isn't it that that's
But-
like they're like
Uh.
the Alex Joneses. It's just, oh God, I can't stand that.
I'd say that's even worse than Alex Jones.
Yeah.
Rush
some
Limbaugh.
of them
No,
make Alex
worse than him,
Jones
too.
seem normal.
But I want to continue about the Golden Dome thing, because one of the issues I have with the Golden Dome is the fact that Trump is also seemingly against the F-35.
Yeah, what's with that?
You know, he seems to think that stealth is not worth pursuing in a fighter,
what?
and it makes him
I think
ugly,
he's
so we should get
about-
rid of it.
Yeah,
You
you,
know
can
what
see
I
the
think
plane. I'm like,
that
what?
People realized that he thought that stealth meant the plane was invisible.
Yeah, because he
Right?
said you can see the plane.
And so now he's got like a petty like grievance against stealth because it's not invisible.
Technically, it is invisible.
Well, it is
Well, it's
invisible.
invisible on radar.
but
it
not
co-
to
it
the naked eye.
Yeah, it basically, depending on the
Like he
know.
thought it was it was
We're going,
invisible to the naked eye, and so he's a
obviously,
bit
okay,
embarrassed
there's a
by that.
difference. Yes,
And so
it's
that's why he
stealth,
doesn't like
okay.
stealth technology.
hold on. Let Dandelion finish.
Well, that was all I had to say. He was embarrassed. He was embarrassed because he was caught out thinking that stealth meant invisible to the naked eye.
Okay, yeah. I mean, well,
And so
come
now
on.
he's got
That's,
pettiness against it.
I could
It's the
see.
same thing.
I could.
Why is he
Actually.
angry at Harvard? Because they didn't let Barron in. He didn't.
I
Barron
could
didn't
see
get in,
Trump,
so now he's got
I
petty against Harvard.
I could see. I could see.
With that dude.
Okay, you guys are taking this way too seriously.
No, actually, there's a pattern.
Hold on.
There's a pattern.
Based on what Dandelion was saying,
there's a
based
pattern.
on what Dandelion, hold on, Elayu. Based on what Dandelion was saying, do you think Trump thought that the F-35 was supposed to be like the Quinjet from Avengers?
Probably.
The Quinjet. I doubt he even knows what the Quinjet is.
But I mean, he wanted it to be. And I'm thinking more along the lines of
Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman's invisible plane from the old TV show.
You
That's
guys,
what I'm
are,
thinking.
okay, guys.
Can I actually say something now? Can I finish?
I tell you
Hold
this:
on.
there are people. I'm gonna say this. I have heard people mistake stealth and cloak.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have heard people mistake stealth and cloak all the time.
Yeah, but he
So-
doesn't like to be embarrassed by stuff. So he
Of
gets
course
petty
he
about shit.
Of course he doesn't. He's a narcissist.
Yeah, absolutely.
All
He
right,
gets
go
super petty
ahead.
about stuff.
Go ahead, Elihu. I want to, because I want to bring up the other thing that was bugging me about the whole F-35 comments that he was making. So go ahead, Elihu.
Okay, the two comments Dandelion make was trying to make a point. It's a pattern with the Trump administration. You go against him, say something negative against him, there's retaliation against you or your company. It's a pattern. The FAA, Harvard, politicians, judges. You say something negative, he
What
goes
ab-
against you. It's a
NOAA.
pattern.
What
That's
about
why he's angry at the NOAA because they embarrassed him by saying that, in fact, Alabama was not about to get hit by
Harvard?
a hurricane.
Okay, mention Harvard. What about Harvard?
Well, that's a. Let me go into my comment first, because I want to talk about it instead of going into the Harvard thing, because that's a whole other can of worms.
Oh yeah, I was just an example.
But one of the things I was talking that he brought up was the fact that he wants the F-35 to be redesigned to have two engines, because it's better to have two engines than one,
Oh,
because of
shit.
if there's an issue.
Oh,
And
my gosh.
that kind of blew my mind, because we're still making and running F-16s, the Fighting Falcon, the literal
Yeah.
Viper that we from or not the
Top gun,
literal, but the
basically.
figurative Viper from Battlestar Galactica, which is also a single engine. It's one of our best exported planes as well. It may be fourth generation, but it's still one of the best aircraft in the skies compared to, we've already, stopped running the F-14 and, other planes similar to that, to it that are two engines. So there's basically no way to make a two-engine F-35 that isn't essentially another F-22.
Yeah.
And I don't see why, when it came to the Golden Dome, considering we can now attach supersonic missiles to our, certain aircraft, why the F-35 wouldn't be part of the Golden Dome.
Yeah.
Because they literally can, with these new missiles, can shoot ballistic missiles out of the sky.
Well, he does just kind of get hooked on like an idea, and then he just won't let it go.
And the U.S. is capable of shooting satellites from airplanes. It has been done
But,
before.
But also, hopefully, he'll forget about it in a couple of days. So.
But again, as I said, I'm not necessarily against the idea of a Golden Dome.
Yeah, I think that it's like the thing is there's already plenty of defenses in place. So why implement that much more money when you can maybe just reconfigure what you've already got, right? Like there's probably ways to make what you've got more efficient.
I agree.
You need to, right? Like I'm pretty sure the US military is pretty sure about what kind of defenses the continental US requires.
Now,
right?
if you look at the current
missile defense, probably already in place.
I don't think Pete knows what he's doing.
If you count the current missile defense systems that the United States actually has, they only cover about 35% of the land.
Right.
Hold on. Let me clarify. That's 35% of the land based on released figures. The actual figures might be a little bit better than that because, when the United States releases figures on their military assets, they tend to go for the low end because, they don't want to release how good this stuff actually is to our enemies, which is completely understandable.
Exactly.
So these are the civilian figures I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But even still, with what they were talking about, just the sites, like the sites they were talking about, are about $2 billion a piece. And they were talking about building 200 of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not including any of the infrastructure needed to maintain. And
I'm pretty sure that the places that are the most likely and valuable targets are the ones that are well protected, right? Like you don't need to necessarily protect the entire continent for the simple reason that, nobody's going to want to blow up a cornfield in Nebraska. Necessarily. No offense to Nebraska or cornfields, but it's just not like a valuable target, right? And if it's going there, the chances are it can be intercepted, even if there's not a specific thing for it, right? I don't know. I think your military is pretty good. Obviously there's always probably lots of waste and all that kind of stuff in there, but I think you guys already have pretty good defenses between, that, and you guys work with us up here and with NORAD and stuff. So I don't know. I just think it seems like a lot of extra money being spent that probably doesn't actually make you any safer.
Okay. Well, so here's my issue with it. As I said, they've already earmarked the money to go to this program through the BBB, which I'm not going to go too much into the BBB right now.
I don't know what that stands for.
The big, beautiful bill.
Oh, right. Okay.
I
keep hearing big, ugly bill, but yeah.
So, but my issue with that is the fact that they've earmarked the money. So they're like, okay, we're already going to spend this on this.
Right.
But it's like saying that we're going to raise the money and we've already earmarked to spend this money on this building that we're going to build. But as of right now, we don't own the land. We don't have the permits. We don't have blueprints or an architect even hired yet.
Yeah.
But we're already spending the money. Period.
We have to pass the bill to see what's in the bill, according to Nancy Pelosi.
Actually, the bill is actually available online right now.
Yeah.
I've posted PDFs from several sites. So
Now, remember though, she said you have to pass the bill. We have to pass the bill so you can see what's in the bill.
But
Which is
why
fine-
has
which
Nancy
is a-
Pelosi got anything to do with this bill? It's a Republican bill.
Yeah.
I'm talking about when she said, I'm talking about back when the Obamacare bill was coming out. She said
Oh.
that about the Obamacare bill when people asked,
Well, that's
what-
dumb when she says it. No matter
Yeah,
who says
it was dumb.
that's
It was dumb back then, and it's dumb now.
Mhm.
And to be honest, as much as I'm all for socialized medicine, I thought Obamacare was a step in the wrong direction, to be honest.
Well, I have a better question for you. The one I can't figure out why nobody gives a shit about. Who was running our country the last 2 years? Or did he just not care?
I think he was still running the country.
No, it wasn't.
how do you know? How do you know?
He seemed to have really competent people around him, and things weren't going badly.
Competent
So,
people. This is some kind of joke, right?
and now there's competent people around Trump. All the hosts off fucking Fox News are competent people in his administration. Like, I don't know. Like, if you're gonna, don't even go there. Andy.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I have no
and
respect for that.
As
Like,
much as I don't like going off on tangents
Biden
myself,
had
because
competent people around him. Like,
Hold
yeah,
on,
maybe he was a little dipsy at, in the evenings or whatever, but I think he's still a good man who made decisions that he thought were in the best interest of the United States, other than deciding to run for president for a second term. That was a pretty stupid decision.
yeah, I agree with you there, Dandelion. But and I know I chided Elihu for going off on tangents, and I'm going to bring up a meme that I thought was kind of funny. Basically, in the United States, if you're on parole for a felony, one of the things that can be considered a violation of your parole is interacting with other felons. And the funny part for me is the fact that Trump is a felon, and if you look at members of his cabinet and his administration, he has another 30 or so felons that are also in his administration.
Right?
So technically, under certain laws, that would be a violation.
Yeah. Well, and just to finish off, as far as competent people in that Golden Dome go, Pete Hegseth's never gonna actually get anything going on.
Oh
that.
no, I have no faith or expectations of him being able to implement anything competently.
Yeah, except for how to do push-ups or some such, and also how to throw axes badly.
Oh, he's implementing something that's gotten high marks from Trump himself about grooming measures for the military and procedures. Basically, everybody's supposed to be smooth shaven, smooth skin. Any kind of bumps of stuff, you're in violation. Well, about 80% of black people have bumps when they shave.
Yeah,
that was
administration's all for
one of the
this.
things I didn't like either. I mean, but that's a smaller issue.
Hedges has no concept of what is actually safety compared to actually regularity. I can say that word right. Pete, our current Secretary of Defense, he has, just like Trump, concepts of a plan, but never implementing anything specific or solid.
Well, I think the problem with some of these people is they like the idea, but they don't actually want to do the work. That's always been the comments people have made about who's the FBI director guy, that guy.
Patel.
Patel.
Right? People who've worked with him have said he's all talk. He never actually gets anything done. In his when he's at, in a professional way, right? He talks a big talk, but he doesn't actually do the work.
Okay. So basically, what you guys are is, oh, Trump's in office. Fuck anything Biden did in the past and who was actually running this.
No, but the thing is, Trump is just as addled as Biden ever was.
I'm not
actually listened to Trump's speeches. Go listen to that address he gave at West Point and tell me he sounded more coherent than Biden did.
I'm not talking about Trump. I'm talking about Biden. That's the problem. You guys can't talk about Biden without bringing up Trump.
Well,
This
the main issue we have with that,
with
Andy, hold on.
Biden and the
Hold on.
Democrat Party.
The main issue that we have is any criticisms that are usually leveled at Biden apply equally or more so to Trump, and no one on his side seems to care.
Yeah,
Because everything is negative, that wrong. It's Biden's fault, according to Trump.
About the last
half the shit that Trump does. If Biden had done those things that Trump did, it would be all over Fox News for like a month.
And hold on. It's 45 minutes in. I want to get some stuff done. So I'm going to end the stream. So we what I can try to do is do another stream later on this week, where one of the now I can't even remember the name of my own random stream, but whatever, we can talk about it then. But for now, let's just go ahead and hopefully clear our heads with this, and we can talk some nerd shit on the CNA stream in about 14 minutes now.
For sure.
I'm gonna make some more coffee.
I got more coffee coming, and I also got
I won't be able to stay for long because I'm going into Vancouver today, but
all right, later.
I will be there for a few minutes anyway. Okay, bye.
Hey, weirdos.